he says, they ate and they were satisfied. And the disciples took up 12 basketfuls of pieces after 5,000 people were fed. You see, this just blows my mind, the power of our God. And a miracle that we don't hear much about, but one which I particularly like, is when Peter came to Jesus and he talked to him about the tax that the Roman government was putting in place. It was called the 2 drachma tax. And Peter talked to Jesus about it, and Jesus said, go to the lake, put in the rod, bring out the fish, and the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you will find a coin. And what was the coin? 4 drachma coin, enough to pay the tax for Jesus and Peter. Isn't that amazing? Do fish usually keep coins in their mouths? And a 4 drachma coin, just the right amount to pay the tax for those 2? Wow. Our God is so amazing. Why ever do we feel inferior, insignificant, or insecure when we know we are in the hands of a powerful God? His power is beyond reason. And not only is his power beyond reason, but God's grace is beyond reason. A story I particularly like, and I think we can all relate to this story in one part of our lives or another, is when Peter comes to Jesus, knowing that he has denied Jesus 3 times. And there Jesus calls him with the disciples for breakfast on the beach. And Peter comes to Jesus, and Jesus asks him 3 times, do you love me? And Peter says, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. But those words were going deep into Peter's heart, and every word that Jesus spoke was restoring Peter to the original state of friendship he had with him. Peter was near to Jesus. Peter was the one that was one of the 3 that was in the inner circle. He saw everything, every one of Jesus' miracles. Even when they went to the Mount of Transfiguration, Peter was there. And so Peter was very close to Jesus. And every word that Jesus said, he was bringing him nearer and nearer to him, reinstating him to that friendship. And why? Because of God's amazing grace. He could have said, Peter, how could you have done that? Peter, after us walking together and being so close for 3.5 years, how could you have denied me? How could you have said that you never knew me? But no, Jesus' words were words of love, and that's the God of grace. His grace is beyond reason. And I also think of Jesus forgiving those Jewish high priests and the teachers of the law, and those people that mocked him, and those people that brutally whipped him. And what did Jesus say on the cross? Father, forgive them. Father, forgive them. They had hurt him. They bruised him. We can't even imagine, the hurt in his soul. And yet he could say, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. That's the amazing grace of God. That's God's grace beyond reason. And even when our flesh cries out, I want revenge, I want fairness in this situation, I want it my way, the grace of God comes to us. The grace that God gives us to forgive others is beyond reason. And if anyone has read the autobiographies of Corrie ten Boom, you'll know what I'm talking about. Because Corrie ten Boom and her sister were in concentration camps. They were beaten. They had horrific things done to them. And yet, Corrie ten Boom came to the point in her life when she actually came face to face with one of the men that had beaten them. She could reach out her hand in forgiveness. Now, only the grace of God can do that. God's grace is beyond reason. And yet, in our own lives, more than anything else, we can look back and say, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. We all came from different situations, different positions in life. We had different things happen to us, but we can all say, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. By grace, we are saved. God's grace is beyond reason. And not only power beyond reason, not only grace beyond reason, but God's love is beyond reason. When we say God's love is beyond reason, we step out of natural reasoning. And isn't that difficult sometimes for us to do? We step out of natural reasoning when we say that God's love is beyond reason. I just want to remind you of Jesus' meeting with Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was a tax collector, a chief tax collector. He was a very wealthy man, but he was a man that was very disliked because he was a Jew and he was working for the Roman government. Now, the Roman government was very crafty. They didn't want Romans working for them. They would prefer to have the Jews working for them, because everybody knew that the tax collectors were people that were very disliked. They were ostracized in a way, and nobody wanted to be anywhere near them. They knew they were dishonest people, robbing the people, not just taking the tax that the Roman government would say, but taking a lot more than that, so that they would be building up their own riches. And this day, Jesus came and stood by a tree